All right. So I guess I'll introduce you. This is Dara. Is that how you say it, right?
Yeah, Darragh. Yeah,
Dara from Spirit Box podcast. I've been
that's right.
listening to his show for a while. Do you want to share anything about your podcast and stuff before you get into your story? Or
Yeah, it's about 2.5 years I've been doing it. Before that, it was just kind of random YouTube videos that I was putting up. But yeah, it's about folklore, magic, and spirits, and trying to build out as many different viewpoints of those areas, with different people who've got interesting backgrounds and things to say about those areas. It's good. I get to learn a lot.
yeah, that's fun. That's cool. That's kind of what I'm trying to do here as well. It seems like just gather different viewpoints and
Awesome.
yeah. So I guess you could if you want to start. I guess I don't know wherever you want to start sharing your story and your background, where you come from.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the main
I
points.
well, I suppose if I think about kind of why I started that podcast, is probably the crux of things. Really, it started because I had some strange experiences while working as a travel photographer in India, particularly around photographing the subject of the jinn. So I went to Delhi in 2016. I've been to India quite a few times, and I spent a lot of time there. Um, and I was going back for the first time in 4 years after I spent about 6 7 months there, to shoot this story on the jinn. So one of the kind of names of Delhi is the city of jinns, and it's the name that William Dalrymple, who's a historian and travel writer, gave to his book about being a young correspondent in Delhi. And that's just it's a wonderful book. He writes so well. It describes Delhi beautifully. So I decided it'd be an interesting thing for me because I'm a fan of his books, but also kind of I'm drawn towards the kind of the mysterious and esoteric. So I'll go and photograph the locations associated with the jinn, and I did so. But a whole heap of kind of strange things happened. Some of them were quite unpleasant while I was doing that. So, like before I went, like I had a very very vivid nightmare in a place in India, which then turned out to be one of the locations that I was going to. And then it was like a Sufi celebration, Sufi musical celebration, which tend to happen kind of every Thursday night in these Sufi shrines. It was in a Sufi shrine called Nizamuddin Dargah, which was one of the locations. And I turned to my left, and the dream's a man in a white hat with like a decomposing face, who said, "Don't come here." And and then I went there.
How'd that go? Did you
Well,
find him? Did you find the
I
guy?
did. I found the guy in a
Whoa.
white hat. Yeah, in the enclosure for where people were waiting to be treated who had gin problems. So they would go to the pirs, the Sufis in the shrine to be treated, to be prayed over, have surahs said over them, that kind of thing. And there was a guy in a white hat staring at me, and kind of just I could see him mouthing off at me. So it was
That'd be
like the
terrifying.
yeah, it really was. Yeah, it was the first time I was kind of scared to actually take a photograph. Yeah, it kind of it really knocked me back on my heels. And there was a bunch of other stuff that happened, but it's one of those things that when you start to explore the spirit world a little bit, you start to recognize the patterns of being messed with. You know, and when I came back after a while, I was trying to work through and rationalize it and kind of go, what the hell's going on there, and that kind of thing. And you try and do all kinds of mental acrobatics to really disenchant what has happened and bring it into the rational world.
Mhm.
And I managed to do that to a degree. But since then, I'm to me, I'm certain that I was, yeah, I was engaging with something, or something was engaging with me. You know,
Well, yeah.
like famously, the jinn, and well, they say this with most spirits, but famously they say about the jinn, if you start to notice them, or think about them, or say their name, they'll notice you. You know, most Islamic people won't even let you say the word jinn. You know, like they won't have anything related to the jinn in their home. You know, um, so that's yeah, one way of looking at it.
So that's what kind of started it going. Yeah, it's funny how the
Yeah,
mind, I feel like the mind just automatically, without even trying it, just immediately tries to rationalize experiences like that,
yeah,
whether you're wanting to or not. And then you can actually, if you actually think about them, you're just like, okay, this doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah.
yeah. This is it, and like that's the kind of it's I call it like the personal apocalypse, right? Because
Yeah.
all your kind of foundational structures about what the world is like and how reality is structured crumble, you know,
Yeah.
but it is revealing as well, you
Hmm.
know. So yeah, that's kind of how I think of it, and it's got that kind of trickster element intertwined with it as well because it it's mischievous, it's playful, and then it can go quite dark as well. But it does destroy to create something new. And like the podcast probably wouldn't be there, amongst other projects, wouldn't be there if I hadn't have kind of gone on that misadventure. You know, and to be fair, I got off pretty lightly. You know, they're notoriously they're
Yeah. Yeah.
notoriously vindictive. You know, I came away with a bloody nose instead of a broken leg, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So that's kind of what they're mostly known for, is being mischievous and stuff. They're not, I guess I thought I had heard somewhere that they're kind of mostly neutral kind of spirits most of the time, but
I think that's kind of fair. If you look at things from an Islamic perspective, and they'll go through the kind of the list of the different types of jinn, from mirad to ifrit, shaitan, all kinds of different things. They generally will talk about, and this one is the most evil, this one is eviler, this one is even the super evilest. You
yeah.
know, they kind of they're almost kind of graded in area in the levels of evil. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
so they are definitely seen as they can be cause extreme havoc. You know,
So,
associated with epilepsy, child death, all kinds of travesties and tragedies in life. You know,
wow.
they're associated with. Yeah.
So is it uh mostly just Islamic, or do the Hindu believe in jinn as well? Or is it just kind of semantics? Does it just kind of get into semantics or something at that point?
No, it's a good question. So like the word jinn, you know, basically kind of it means like hidden, right? So and it comes from kind of North Africa. It's or sorry rather it's an Arabic peninsula word.
Mhm.
But the idea of jinn exists all the way across North Africa and exists in India as well. Now there are Hindu versions, you know,
Okay.
like yakshini are like tree spirits that can
Okay.
be negotiated with, that kind of thing. Um, and they can be conjured through various different um, mantra, like excessive repetition of mantra in like the hundreds and thousands of
Oh,
repetitions.
goodness gracious.
Yeah. But I
So
met Hindu people like petitioning the jinn at at a at the site that I went to called Kotla. What is this? Bear with me now. Let me just dig up my
yeah,
notes. Shah Kotla, I think if I remember correctly.
it's a lot of time in India. I just got back
Yeah.
from there earlier this summer, but I didn't. I was only there 2 weeks.
Oh, cool. Where'd you go?
I flew into Delhi, and then I flew over to Guwahati, Assam area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you went east.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Cool.
a lady there who works with orphans and stuff, and so I was
Oh,
there for
lovely.
just a short bit. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It wasn't anything crazy with the gin or anything like that. Thank goodness. You know.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's for us a Shah Kotla, which is it's Delhi's made up of a bunch of different cities, kind of all different cities, and it's kind of merged into kind of the metropolis that is Delhi. And so for us, Shah Kutla is it was built by Sultan Feroz Shah Tolak, and it was his version of Delhi, and it was called Firozabad. And it's supposed to be home to 10,000 jinn. But I met Hindu people petitioning the jinn there.
Okay,
You know,
what did they petition them for exactly? Just all sorts of things?
yeah, all sorts of things. There were letters, lots of letters pinned to the different grottos,
Okay.
and people were asking. I mean, all the kind of spectrum of human need and desire. Really, you know, it's from things aligned to helping one's family. Like there was a letter from a lady asking the Jinn to intercede with her sons who were in the grip of alcohol addiction, and another one was asking to like to win the gold lottery. There's a kind of a lottery in, I don't know if it's still going, but there was a lottery where you can like win a kilo of gold, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which
The
that's
first one
cool.
sounds a little better, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Get you in less trouble, maybe.
yeah. But yeah, there's all those kind of letters are petitioning. I mean, there was like letters to like win the kind of the Indian version of like Pop Idol or you know Britain's Got Talent, that kind of thing.
Oh,
Those dreadful talent shows, basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that your kind of your first ex spiritual experiences, or did you have a lot of that growing up too?
I did, but none of them are particularly intense, and it's like that kind of thing I was talking about, where you can rationalize it. You can go, okay, well, it was kind of a dream, or this was that.
Yeah.
Like, and but kind of where I've got to now, looking back, I kind of see those things differently. Um, you know, I've seen like spirits. You know, I mean, I guess about 20 years ago in a flat in London, I saw like a kind of a column of smoke with like little blue sparks just float across the room. And I did the whole thing where like I closed my eyes and was like, "Yep, still there," you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, once I got more into kind of my kind of spiritual and magical practice, I started to understand that kind of spirit contact a little bit more, you
Okay.
know, and pay heed to dreams, the kind of, or you know, those dreams,
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
come to recognize them and a bit clear, you know, have a clearer recognition of those dreams.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to go through that process too. Like because I think I may have mentioned that I'm a Christian, and so I
Mm.
kind of grew up in Christianity, and then I never even read my Bible till like I don't know 5 years ago or something.
Yeah,
I heard scriptures all my life, and then I started reading it, and I'm like, man, half the time God speaks to people, it's in dreams, and I'm like, I just always, growing up, you think they're just dreams or something.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
wow,
yeah,
then
yeah.
they're definitely spirits come to you in the dreams, and angels will come, whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
sorts of things.
totally.
So what is you mentioned a spiritual practice now. So what does that
Yeah.
look like for you?
So mine is it's fairly nature based. You know, like I mean, I grew up in a Catholic country, so angels and saints do kind of feature in my practice. It's that kind of typical kind of mishmash of different things. But broadly speaking, it would be like a folk witchcraft would be kind of
Okay.
what my practice would look like. And in terms of what that looks like in practice, it's daily devotionals, you know, daily petitions, offerings, and then a lot of meditative practice, and yeah, you know, working through spellcraft, that kind of thing.
I feel like that's not normally what people first conceive of in their head when they hear like words like witchcraft or anything. What is that exactly like? With the you said meditations, and so you kind of petition nature spirits is kind of what you're talking about,
I
right? And you
petition
put up.
nature spirits, different gods that are kind of relevant to my practice. You
Okay.
know, different deities.
Yeah.
You know, the dark man I'd work a lot with.
Okay, what is that? I have a question about that too, if you don't mind. Like, what is? I've heard this before, the dark man, and I is it just a guy that's a dark man or something? Like, is that how he
Well,
appears to most people?
so yeah,
Okay,
in some ways, yeah. So the dark man is also known as kind of the witch father, right? And the sabbatical dark man.
okay,
Um, so in the testimonies of the Scottish witches and the witch trials, and actually across the UK, um, witches gave accounts of a dark man appearing during their sabbatical practices. and he would appear in many many different ways. But fundamentally, there would be a black element to him,
Okay.
right? So,
Like a not necessarily like he's dressed in black, but just there's a like a kind of a spiritual sense of dark something,
well,
or not even necessarily evil, but just
no. Like this is it. It's like the we got to park the concepts of good and evil
yeah,
with that what we discuss it, because
yeah,
it, we get
definitely.
wrapped up in the idea of like it's the devil from an Abrahamic sense. So this is the devil from a witchcraft sense, right? So kind of you would look at it from, say, the perspective of the native shamanic pagan practices of Europe, right? If you look at it from that way, that
Hmm.
you have a tricky customer, but it's not a force of evil, right?
Yeah.
It is not a destructive force.
Well, yeah, that's I agree with you. That's what I was kind of trying to
Yeah,
clarify. Like dark doesn't necessarily mean evil, and neither does black. Like those words don't.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's what you're kind of looking at there is he turns up. The cases have him. I mean, I was reading a case by Isabel Gaudi, who's a famous, quite elaborate confessions that she gave, and she was talking about sometimes he turns up as the black man. So again, the man dressed in dark clothing.
okay.
Sometimes he turns up with cloven feet. Sometimes he turns up as a deer. You know,
Wow.
so he turn up in different forms.
Have you ever seen him turn up in a form to you?
Yeah, yeah, I
Is
have.
it?
Yeah,
Do you mind explaining that, or is that personal?
to a degree, but I don't mind
Okay.
talking about it. But it was in like in angelic form. So he will come in
Oh,
angelic form as well,
okay.
with very large black wings. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, the reason I'm so intrigued is because there was one time I'm like it was just a weird like happening that happened to me one time. I don't know how to describe it. I've since I heard of the Darkman, I'm like I have no idea what this person was. But it's basically I was just running with my dog because I used to
Mm,
run. She passed away now, but
mm.
it was
Oh, sorry to hear that.
yeah, we were just running, and the weird part was it was at night and it was in the evening, and then literally out of nowhere, it was just all of a sudden this man was just right in front of us. And the weird thing was my dog didn't even see the guy
Mm,
approach either. It was just like he was there. And I just remember that feeling of just like I don't know, just weird, creepy feeling. And then I got around him. I don't think I even looked back to see if he was there, if it disappeared or not. But it was I just remember for some reason that it's probably nothing, it's probably was just a real guy, but that pops up in my head whenever I hear
What
people
did he
mention.
look like?
I don't even remember at this point. I just remember I don't see the weird thing is too is I don't even remember him what clothes he was wearing, but I just remember
Mm,
this dark feeling about him. Like
mm.
like he would have been wearing dark clothes or something, but I don't remember if that
Okay.
was the case necessarily. Um,
Yeah.
so
Mm,
that's the whenever I hear Dark Man, like that's just my association with it for some reason, but I don't
yeah.
even know if that it could have just been a guy on the road and we
Yeah. It could have been, but it's. I mean, I don't know, obviously, but I will kind of give some context from kind of the areas of my research. Is having an experience like on the road. If you're on the road in a path somewhere, that's the kind of territory where he intercepts. That's the kind of territory where you will have a meeting, like in the wild. Like for example, he's the Lord of the Crossroads.
oh
So
well.
it's along the road where he will appear. You know, like there's plentiful accounts of like people driving and seeing kind of like a 9 foot black figure, or just a man silhouetted on the road, to the point where they, screech on the brakes or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but it's a very strange thing,
Yeah.
but it's it seems, from what I can ascertain, it seems to be about you get faced with horror and strangeness to get your attention,
Yeah.
right? And if you can get past that, if you can kind of like stay with it,
I
you
did.
get through that. Well, I mean, that's that. I mean, it could have just been a weirdo, right? So,
Well, I stopped. Like my whole experience was like it's all of a sudden there's this man
yeah,
right there, like literally probably 3 feet
yeah.
from me, and my dog didn't see him coming. And I just remember like freezing and jerking, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Like I didn't see you were
Yeah.
there. You scared me." And he just didn't say a word. I don't even
Mhm.
know if he looked at me and just slowly kept walking past me. And I was just like, "What the heck? I'm running. I'm just gonna keep running and go on." I didn't stick with it at all. I was like, "I'm out of here."
Yeah, yeah, no, fair enough. But it can signify a change coming, right?
Mhm,
So it's there's multiple different categories of how this seems to work. Um, like all spirit contact and all kind of spirit activity, the only consistency is inconsistency. These are extremely frustrating if you're trying to build a picture that it makes sense. You won't find it. Like
mhm.
it's just an onion. It's just another layer and another layer. There's no center to the mystery. It's that's this is it's the fool's errand in a lot of ways, right? Trying
Yeah.
to understand it and rationalize all this, but certainly if you can get through that, then you can get something different. So within the darkness, it has the potential for light. Within the darkness, it is enfolded within the darkness is light,
Yeah. Mhm,
and you know, with the light, you have the potential for darkness. So it the fundamental kind of model that I see with this is that it's expressing the kind of fallacy of duality. That's what it's telling us.
mhm,
That dark and light are just two sides of the same thing, right? They're expressions of one another.
mhm,
But for us to experience this world, for us to be able, for us to be able to engage with this world, we have to kind of bifurcate everything.
yeah.
So
And
we'll see good and evil and light and dark and all that kind of
mhm.
stuff.
Darkness
But
is where the mystery is and everything too. Yeah.
yeah,
Like you're talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
But these things they're transmoral. So the idea of good or bad is it's it's not relevant to them.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm. I've heard that a lot before too. Yeah. I've often tried to think of why, but do you have any ideas on why that is? On why their morality is different or
I think it's because we only get a glimpse. We're like a dog looking through a hole in a fence,
yeah.
right? Where we can see that little bit. We can't see everything.
Mhm.
Where that higher consciousness, so that some of these super beings
Yeah.
have access to far more, including like the expanse of time, not just kind of the current position and the context of something we're going through.
Yeah.
And often, like when you're going through something, this is the idea of facing into the horror. When you're going through something that is punitive, that is brutal, that is you're just wishing for it to end,
Yeah.
and it's horrendous.
Yeah.
It's it's often a gift of sorts, you know. It does depend how you get through it, because sometimes people don't, you know. Um, but that's the thing. You often hear people say things like, "Yeah, I lost all my money, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me."
Mhm.
Because they're
Yeah.
able to reflect on it and understand they become a better person, or their values have realigned to something that is more centered with them, or that they realize they were going down a very destructive path, or whatever it might be, you know. So yeah, it's one way of looking at it. I
Yeah.
can't say I'm right. It's just how I see it.
That's
You
the
know?
same way.
Yeah.
That's the only way I've been able to make sense of it too. Is that
Mm.
if I am trying to take a heavenly vision or an angelic vision or something, if I try to look from the heavens, are you there? Oh no, I think I might have lost you. Oh, sorry. I think I come back in. Cut out for a second.
Okay.
But yeah, so if I'm trying to look and see the whole picture, it seems like morality is still there, but it definitely shifts and changes and gets really
Oh
weird
yeah.
really
Yeah.
fast because it's if you're looking at the whole expanse of time or trying to see the whole story of humanity, uh, people can become expendable very easily, and that gets really dark really fast too.
Yeah. Yeah. It
So
does.
there's
It does. And
this weird need to have be in the moment and be able to see the larger picture at the same time. And so, yeah.
it's humbling as well, right? Because we
Mhm.
live in a very egocentric There's a big thunder and lightning storm going on here,
Oh
so
yeah.
if I disappear, that's what's it's fried the
Oh
internet.
yeah.
But if you think of it as our, we grew up in the West, things are very egocentric. They have been for the last kind of 60 years or so. We're very much individualized. Um, I think I've lost you again. Have I? I've lost
No,
you. Back?
I'm
You back?
in stuff. Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's
Cool.
glitching up a little bit.
Okay. Um, but it's it's more to do with oh, when we have those humbling experiences, when we realize we might just have a little bit of a job to do for something far, far, far bigger than us, right?
Yeah.
You have to get your head around that, right? That like it's not all about you. It's not about kind of your successes and you being the center of things. It's closer to the idea of Dharma. You have a duty, you have a job to do. And that's where I've got to now. I feel very much like the kind of my work and what I talk about is my Dharma. You know,
Okay.
that I do my job in that
Yeah.
sense to the best of my ability and try and do a good job.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's cool. Oh yeah, one thing before I wanted to kind of make an emphasis on this a second ago that you said, or you brought up this point, and you were when we were talking about the Dark Man and that pushing through the horror and stuff to get to the
Yeah.
better. I feel like that's often a misconception. Like you said, when it gets into this duality, oftentimes,
Mm,
even found in,
mm,
I guess, a lot, not just Christianity, a lot of spiritual practices, I guess, can fall into that. But
yeah.
because there seems to be uh, spirits can show up with a message, and sometimes they can be absolutely horrifying. Like even in dreams and thing, you can
Yeah.
have that will
Yeah.
turn out if you just pay attention to them. They're actually trying to convey something, and so don't just dismiss them as a
Yeah.
nightmare or things like that. Or yeah, yeah.
Totally. Totally. But there's a real need for discernment.
Hmm.
There's a real need for. I think this is where mentorship is useful. You know, but being extremely select on mentorship. It's you have to be very, very discerning in kind of the areas you look at. But and equally, what spirits do you listen to?
Yeah,
You know, like you wouldn't listen to anybody just knocked on your door, would you? It's the same thing.
yeah.
You need to have that discerning eye, keep your distance. The reason they used to call cunning men and cunning women cunning is because they could negotiate this field. They could negotiate with tricky spirits and not get eaten by them. So that's
Can you
you know
do
it's,
that? I don't know if I could.
yeah. This is it. Like this is where it's mentorship is important.
Yeah,
Um, and I think one of the things that we have to be wary of is like big platforms with many, many people discussing these subjects. Um, like at the same time, concurrently, smaller groups where you can be focused and have very clear kind of codes of conduct. You know,
yeah,
um, that I think is a better model. Certainly, it's been in my experience. But
yeah,
yeah, and yeah, discipline, patience. This is where the daily practice comes in.
yeah,
You know, so on a daily basis, I do my work. You know,
yeah.
so it's the first thing I do when I get up.
Wow.
So that's it. Like daily offerings, petitioning spirits, ancestor work, meditation.
What is the work for? Like, do you have an idea of what you're trying to establish? Like when you're doing the work?
Yeah, I mean, some of it's for very specific things. Specific like projects that are part of my dharma to create what I believe. The other part of it is really, it's helping negotiate and navigate with life. So if you got a rough patch ahead of you, right? So it's like, take for example, you look at Shiva, you got creator and destroyer, and then you got the Virgin Mary, the Queen of Heaven, Mother of God. You might go, look, Shiva, destroy all that is impure in me and holding me back. Help me be a better person. Virgin Mary, Mother of God, show me compassion. So whatever he's going to do, try and take the edge off it. You know what I mean? So you're just kind of you're hedging your bets. You're working through it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is that kind of some of your practice too?
That would be things I would look at. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. So you oh man, you just seem extremely knowledgeable, way more than me too. Because I don't even know. I mean, Shiva is Hindu as far as
Yes.
I know, right? Yeah. So I don't know all the well, Hindu's got a whole bunch of them, but
Hmm.
um yeah, I'm probably one of those weird Christians that definitely believes in all the other gods and fairies and jinns and spirits and all that stuff. But do you ever so you probably would mostly petition named deities, I guess you could say, ones that you can name, or is it so you're not just petitioning like just random fairy spirits or jinns or things like that, or are they ones you know, or
Pretty. No, not
no,
necessarily.
not
But I
okay,
have my own kind of like spirits that I work with
yeah,
specifically that are I have a relationship with directly. Um,
that's cool,
yeah. That are would be fairy spirits. Or I would call them jinn if I lived in the
yeah.
Middle East. Just wouldn't talk about them.
Is it
Uh,
is it because it's are they is it just semantics when it gets into that categories, jinns and fairies, or are there that to me I would think there'd be slight differences, but it'd be around the
I
same.
think there are slight differences too. I think broadly speaking, it's the same thing.
Okay,
There are slight differences, and I think those differences come from two places: where they're being seen, the
yeah,
influence of the landscape, and
yeah,
then the influence of the local culture and who's observing them.
okay, yeah, yeah. Which
Yeah.
would which is yeah, because those two both things would be
Mm.
related to as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an interesting passage in the Bible that kind of reminded me of this too, and it was talking about the you might be familiar with it, the two it's when the Jesus casts out all the demons into the pigs,
Mm.
but they plead with him not to make them leave the country. Like they say, don't send us into the torments or to the abyss. They want to stay in their own country. And I always thought that was kind of interesting. Like their spirits associated with a certain land or something,
Right. Right.
even in the
Yeah.
scriptures. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, these things turn up, Yeah, I don't know.
They really do. They really there's extraordinary things that happen all the time. They're really bizarre. Like there's some association with the North and and like say if you look at I find it very hard to separate Satan and Lucifer in a lot of ways. There seems to be a lot of overlap. Like all of these things, it's very. I mean, some scholars might be like falling out of their stools listening to this, like clutching their pearls in theological horror. But it's a lot of these things seem to be the same energies that are called different things when they behave in different ways. So it's very hard to ascertain absolute truth. So things like Iblis would be seen as the Islamic Satan, the Shaitan.
Huh.
And
Yeah.
but he's also some of his titles. When he appears as jet black, right? But some of his titles refer to like being white, right, or wearing white, that kind of thing, right? So then you get similar to going, well, okay, well, the dark angel who wears light, who brings light, then you're kind of into Luciferic territory, with Lucifer being the bringer of light, the shining one. So these things tend to overlap. There, the edges are blurred,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's very hard to get a kind of a direct bead on these things. Again, coming to the point of like, I don't even think we're supposed to, But here's the thing: you have in Irish folklore, one of the origin myths. Well, one of the origin myths for the fairies is there are the remnants of the Tuatha De Danann, right? Who were this kind of magical tribe that arrived in Ireland and took over from the fear, was it the Fear Bolg? Anyway, they fought with the Fomorians, who were these kind of sea demons. So they were kind of like this magical tribe that arrived in their sailing crafts. And the other myth is that they're the angels that lost the war in heaven and didn't fall all the way to hell. Now, very similar myth arrives with the jinn. So Iblis wouldn't submit to Adam under the commandment of Allah. So angels are made of light, jinn are made of fire, and humans are made of sounding clay. And Iblis was amongst the angelic host because he was extraordinarily devoted to Allah, and he refused to bow to Adam. So the same as
Yeah.
same as kind of within Christian myth, the sin of pride, right?
Yeah. That's what
And
I
then,
was going to ask too.
yeah,
That seems to be the close link. I think that for me,
Mhm.
that ties Lucifer to Satan is
yeah,
the sin of pride,
yeah,
which
yeah.
ties him also to Adam and the this is the right way to describe it. Because to me, when I see the eating of the knowledge of tree of good and evil is the not just eating of knowledge, but when you are saying, I know good and evil, I know
Mhm.
I can discern good and evil, I can be God.
Yeah,
Because if you could, that the weird passage in the Bible, Isaiah 14, when it's talking about Lucifer, it's got, there's one part and it says, I will be like the Most High, is what Lucifer says. And then that's the same thing in the garden where the serpent is tempting Adam and Eve. He's saying, you
right.
could be like God, you could be like
Yeah.
the Most High. And so it's very similar. And it's that
Oh
sin
yeah.
of pride, I think you're talking about,
Mm.
of that
Yeah.
exalting. Yeah.
But there's an interesting thing as well because there's a Sufi way of looking at Iblis, um, which is that he was the kind of the consummate monotheist in that he wouldn't bow or exalt to anything other than Allah.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah, and it's very similar to kind of the Gnostic idea that actually, you know,
Yeah.
Lucifer is not
Wow.
the evil one we have been told. So it's and that in fact it was a trial, and Iblis passed. Um, and that
Wow.
and the work, the challenging work that he does on the earth is less that it's a penalty in which he has to atone for his sins, but more that he's doing the difficult work of God for God because he loves him so much. You
That
know,
is a fascinating idea. That is like, I
it
think
is,
that's
isn't
like,
it?
yeah, I feel like it's very related to a lot of things I've been talking about with friends recently as well, too.
But
Um,
I wanted to kind of finish my point about the Tuatha Dé
yeah.
Danann, right? So the other aspect of the Tuatha Dé Danann is that they are the descendant of the fairies, right?
Okay.
These
Yeah.
magical people with great powers, and they came from somewhere in the north, were a place that had four cities, and from each of these four cities, they learned alchemy, they learned magic, they learned sorcery, right? They learned metallurgy. They brought all these amazing skills with them to Ireland. They brought four treasures with them as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and the Jinn, their homeland is said to be in the north, right, North Pole. And if you look at kind of maps in the kind of the excerpts of maps of the north up into like the late 1700s, you'll see four islands around a black mountain. And the maps of I think it's Jacob Neuden, if I remember correctly, or at least he was discussing this area. So these four islands surround the Black Mountain. The Black Mountain in Western lore is called Rupas Nigra. The Black Mountain in Islam is called Mount Qaf, right? And the mountain was said to be made of lodestone, this giant mountain of lodestone, so magnetic stone, which is why the compasses all point north. So the four islands map onto the four cities. So we're saying kind of the Tuatha Dé Danann come from the north, where the Jinn come from. So you've got this kind of mono myth where they stack on top of each other. And then there's an interesting thing in some of the Apocrypha. Satan says to in the book of Adam and Eve, Satan says to Adam, come to the north and be with me in my garden. And he says no. And then sometime later, Satan petitions Cain with the same proposition. and he's a lot more open to it. But when he appears to Cain, he appears as a plowman, and one of the titles of Iblis is around being a plowman as well. So you get these overlaps that are remarkable. I mean, it's not surprising because some of it's from the same area, but there is a direct association with the north, with agriculture that comes again and again. But there's some real specifics. The four cities, the four islands, you
Yeah.
know, the home of these fairy people, same home as the jinn.
Yeah.
Like these are very, very different areas of the world with very similar mythologies.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Hmm. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's I don't know. It's just incredible to me how and maybe it's just like since the internet's been, going on for a while that all these stories are lining up and they're kind of coming together and people are able to see they're they're actually a lot of times they're the same story just with different
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
semantics.
they
It's
really
really
are.
really
Yeah.
just semantic.
Yeah. But it begs a question, doesn't it? Is it like, are we all telling the same story because, we've got the huge influence of Abrahamic religion? So we have essentially kind of three versions, three variations of broadly the same story. We got some variation. Or are we all talking about the same thing because it is the same thing? And we're experiencing it in culturally specific ways, but in ways that are identifiable as being similar.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
that
it's
is.
it's it's a it's a very, yeah, it's a very engaging and absorbing question.
Yeah. It definitely is. Yeah. So what is do you mind me this might be a pointed question, I don't know. In your I don't want to say practice, I guess your view on things like that and the way spirits are, is there how do you conceive that in your mind? Is there a hierarchy up to like one ultimate God like Allah or the Yahweh or whatever? Or
Yeah, I think there's kind of commander of the earth or king of the earth, which I would see as Lucifer, and then beyond that, there's like the cosmic god. You know,
okay.
yeah, um, kind of a Brahma type figure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm not super familiar with Brahma. There's two of them. Brahma is the main one and then gosh, why I'm drawing a blank. Never mind. He's not the one that's blue, right? Who am I thinking of as
no.
blue? Blue's his
So
son, right?
Vishnu,
Vishnu,
who's one of
that's
the
what I'm
one of
thinking
the
of.
one of the trifecta, is blue. So is Krishna.
Krishna.
So
Okay, I was about to
Krishna
say
is,
Krishna, but I was like,
yeah.
Hare Krishna, that can't be right. And then I don't know why. Yeah. But are those kind of Brahma, is that Brahma's son? Is that considered that? Or I can't remember the story.
An emanation.
Okay.
Like it's again, this is where you run into some really kind of tricky
Yeah.
tricky lineage, some complexity here. Look, for example, Krishna. So Vishnu is seen as one of the supreme god, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Krishna is the eighth avatar of Vishnu.
Okay.
He's also seen as the supreme god,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
this is where the idea of duality and binaryism totally breaks down. And the Indian mind has got a vastly superior capability to believe what seem like two opposing ideas at the same time. They're much more palatable with those kind of polarizing ideas. They can hold those
Yeah.
two things as true at once, which I think is a better understanding of the complexity of what the other might be.
Hmm.
I think our understanding is simplistic and limited.
Yeah.
I mean that's harsh. I'm that's just it's an observation.
How are do you feel like you are pretty good at holding the two together like you're talking about or have gotten better at it at least?
I think I've gotten better at it. I mean, I think, or maybe it's just been used to being confused.
I can relate. Yeah. I feel like it seems to me like people in general, at least in my experience, and maybe it's just the circles I'm in, are getting better at it. I don't. being able to see the two opposing things as coming together as one, which is very hard to
Yeah.
do. But yeah, it does start to make more sense. Not to sound too wishy-washy, but yeah, it's hard. I can't even put the right words around it. It's hard to explain. But I guess you could kind of almost say, even with the Lucifer idea, like you're talking about, like
Mm.
you could show up one way and you could see him as an angel of light, and then
Hmm.
you'd see him somewhere else. Same thing with me. I often think of death the same way. Like if death is just a door to new life, to a lot of
Hmm.
people, it's going to look like the Grim Reaper, and to others, it
Yeah.
might look like
Hmm.
the Virgin Mary or something like that, you know.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's. I think it's getting accustomed to the concepts where you become a little bit more comfortable with them. But I think the fundamental thing is that no one really knows. And I think where you get people who are dogmatic about, no, Lucifer's that, Satan is that, and that is it, right? They don't know.
yeah. Well, you want to
Well,
know. Everybody wants to know. It's the hard
they
thing, because
they do
it's
want
so
to know.
it's because people don't like being confused.
But here's the
It's
thing, right?
horrible.
I'm always prattling on about this play that I love, and it's Peter Brook's Mahabharata, and he wrote like an 8-hour play of which made into a film
I gotta look this
called
up.
called, called the Mahabharata, and he's basically taken uh, chapters of the well, he's taken the whole Mahabharata and he's made it into a play. So some of the kind of more famous scenes are between Lord Krishna and Prince Arjuna, where they're discussed, where Arjuna is a warrior. He's a great warrior, right? And he is going up against essentially his cousins to fight for the kingdom, right? Fight for what's right. And he has this crisis of fate when he's standing on the battleground between these two armies waiting to destroy each other. And he's like, I can't do this. These are some of my friends, my teachers. How can I do this? And Krishna basically consoles him in his hour of crises. He talks to him, and he takes him through things. He takes him through, irrespective of what action you take, this is going to happen. So your dharma as a warrior is to do your best job, and this is where I come back to the concept of dharma, of like doing your soul's purpose, your job, and not being attached to the outcome. So don't have the egoic attachment to, well, if I do this thing, then it happened because I'm great, I'm the best, or I'm absolutely attached to the outcome. Like Krishna instructs him, just do your job, but do not be attached to the fruit of that job. Work without attachment, fight without desire. And as he's talking through all of Arjuna and steadying him, Arjuna asks if he can see his universal form. Right, and then it's the kind of the multi-armed, multi-dimensional, infinite, huge being, and Arjuna is stunned by this revelation, but he goes on to do his work. But equally, he almost couldn't bear the universal form. And this is why I don't think we're supposed to or can really understand the complexity, because the universal form is beyond our comprehension. The universal form of these, we say spirits, but like we're talking gods here, like, big things. To observe them is to be obliterated. People talk about working with angels, magicians who work with angels to, say, remove dark or destructive entities. They talk about, like, you can't be in angelic energy for too long because you will get fried. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
But it's not just kind of energetically fried. It's part of it is, by witnessing kind of or in whatever way this universal form, and that's part of the horror. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. The angels are definitely force to be reckoned with for sure.
Mm.
There's a even in the scriptures, it's the same way. People they show up to people and they just fall flat on their face.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
terrifying.
yeah. Yep. Yeah, and those are always their first words. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Don't freak out. Yeah. I seen that one image. It was fun. It was just a little meme or something, but it had the image. I'm sure you're familiar with it of the weird circle with all the eyes and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it said like, "Don't be afraid"
Yeah.
underneath it. It's like, what?
I made a Christmas bauble like that
Really?
for the angel for
Whoa!
my Christmas tree.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool.
I glued lots of doll's eyes to a gold bauble.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, oh man, there was a question I was just gonna ask you. I can't remember. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll ask you this other one first because I'm just keep asking you questions. I was one of the ones I wanted to ask is just what do you in general like to talk about, or is there any thing specific that's been like on your heart and mind lately that's really been standing out to you?
Well, at the moment, I'm kind of really ensconced in a project on the Dark Man, so that's my world at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's some of it's historical research, some of it's folkloric research, and then other bit is kind of the concepts that orbit it, like the trickster, kind of the culture manipulator. Um, it's really remarkable,
Huh.
and the idea of how our personal daemons influence us. But those daemons are almost taking their instruction from a higher force, and I would say that higher force in my world is a Lucifer as king of the earth, working through our daemons, um, through
Is
our
Lu
creativity.
is Lucifer how you perceive him? Is he kind of like a spiritual being of pride? Is that how? Or
Not a being of pride.
okay,
As many, I mean, many different forms presents
okay,
himself in all kinds of ways.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, he's often seen as kind of a 9 foot tall black figure, but his face is made up of stars.
okay. Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
I think I sorry, I'm just asking because I think it's good to clarify because if I say Lucifer and my mind goes to
sure,
like the
yeah,
bearing
yeah.
of pride, it's like we're not
Mhm,
talking about the
mhm.
same guy then, then it's just
Well, it's
language game.
we probably are talking about the same guy, but we have very different viewpoints in that
Okay.
regard. So I would not see. Um, I would see how the exchange between God and Lucifer happened in a different way. In that I am the Most High would probably mean I am the Most High here. I'm not the Most High of the cosmos, if that makes difference.
Mm-hmm.
So the
I
Creator God is more like a Brahma type figure, a universal God of the universe,
okay.
whereas Lucifer is the king of the earth.
King of the Earth. Okay.
I could be wrong on that, but that's how I view it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's an ever changing form.
Okay.
Like it presents itself in different ways. That's why you get the sometimes terms as a black man, and I mean a man in black, or just a jet black silhouette.
Yeah.
Sometimes turns up with cloven feet, which is symbolizing the wildness in him. That he represents the earth. He's made up of everything, and he makes everything. Like he represents the fecundity of nature.
Hmm.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's
but that includes death as well.
that
That's why
includes
there's horror. Like it's like if you think about the light and dark motif and think about it as say soil, right? So the darkness of the soil contains the seed. The seed climbs towards the light, emerges into the light, it blossoms, it dies, it goes back into the soil.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah. It's the
it's
gospel.
a different way of looking at it in that sense,
Yeah.
but it's working for another force,
Yeah.
which you
Mhm.
might call God.
Mm. Yeah. I probably would. Yeah. I think the highest aim, the telos,
Mm.
the greatest good, you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. That's fascinating. So is the when you said your daemon, is that kind of the same as a familiar, or is it similar to when people talk about having familiars? Or,
Um. Well, familiar is usually a spirit that will do work for you,
okay,
right? But
I see.
the daemon um will be closer to kind of your guardian angel,
Okay, yeah,
right? So if you can imagine the concept of like the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other,
yeah.
speaking to you, talking to you, you can see the daemon is probably both of those intertwined.
Is it
And
kind
this
of similar to a co-walker? When I
exactly,
okay, okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
All right, okay, that's cool.
and a Qur'an in Islam.
Okay, yeah, yeah. It's where everybody has those. Like you think, I don't know. This is frustrating sometimes. It's like people you might think they don't, or they rejected it at first. It's like, no, you definitely have that going on. You do, yeah. Or you better hope you do. I don't know. It's there to help you. Yeah, that's really interesting. So is that's the things that have been occupying your time, or is that something that's just really like you actually like talking about that a lot, or is that something you normally need a break from? Like, am I just kind of keeping you in your work and
No, no,
yeah,
it's
okay.
just it's something I'm actively working on. So I'm kind of halfway through a manuscript at the moment. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hmm.
So do you have anything else you could share about the Dark Man, or is it kind of one of those things you got to keep
No,
before you release it?
no. The way I see it is this: is that it is it plays out, it plays itself out through our stories and through the witches, right? The Dark Man bestows the gift of fire in the blood. That is that mystic spark to help people to make them mystically flourish, that they can start to work with and understand what's behind the veil, that they can start to conceptualize things that are beyond the
Yeah,
mundane world, and start to work in that territory, be it as a healer or whatever. But it's starting to see the world outside of the mundane existence. So it's the mystic fire
yeah,
that it ignites. It initiates.
yeah. That sounds intense.
Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I'm listening to you describe it, and I'm like, I don't think a lot of people would want that. And then I'm thinking, well, a lot of people might think they might want that, but then once you get that initiation
Mm.
process, I'm like, you might change your mind pretty quick. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Is it's and for a lot of people, you know, the witch father is the instigator. He appears in people's life in some way and initiates them. The experience is an initiatory one.
Hmm.
Like the experience I described to you that I had in Delhi, that was an initiatory one.
Hmm.
It changed. It changed me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and you go back through the testimonies of these the witches. There's a database, the Scottish Witchcraft or Witch Trial Database, and it's collated all of these accounts from all the different kind of legal county documents and all the different types of councils that would have documented the witch trials and witch interviews, and he
Mm.
comes up again and again. The Dark Man,
Wow.
the Metal Great Man, the Metal Black Man. Second to that, you get the Green Man as well, which is
Is he related to the Dark Man?
we could talk about the fecundity of nature. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I know none of this for sure, right? I don't. I
Yeah.
can't speak with any conviction. I'm just saying
Yeah.
what I see.
Yeah.
Like um, but it occurs again, and there is a connection between the dark one and the creative force,
Oh yeah.
right?
That seems
So
right.
yeah, and the green man seems to be a representative of that.
Uh-huh.
But,
Yeah.
but when you look again, and this is where I think the Hindu model helps you metastasize and process that there's so many complex variations of the same thing that
Yeah.
overlap the blurred lines that we've already discussed. You know, you look at Hinduism and you have thousands of gods. You've got like hermaphroditic like emanations of these great gods and goddesses with their partners. There's a version of them that is unified. This happens again and again. So it's really remarkable.
Yeah.
So
It is.
where you get these different versions, that might be what's going on. Again, and my caveat, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's a good thing to stick to, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, I like what you said about the creative force coming from darkness. I would completely agree. I mean, that's even how Genesis starts in the Bible. It's
Exactly it.
dark.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And I think that encapsulates it all perfectly.
Yeah.
That the
Hmm.
light comes out of the darkness. You
Yeah.
know.
I would completely agree. Ecclesiastes, this verse, it goes on, nothing new under the sun, nothing new under the sun. And it's like, yeah, because once it's in the light, it's defined, it's formed.
Mhm.
It's like you need the darkness to discover something new. That's where the mystery and, like you're talking
Yeah,
about, potential is creativity.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Let me see. I was gonna ask you. Let's. Oh well, do you have any questions for me by any chance? Or anything comes to mind or no?
Um, I think what drives your curiosity, because you've got different people on your show that are looking. What drives your curiosity? What are you looking for?
Um, I cut out just a little bit, but I think I got the gist of the question. What drives my curiosity? I'm not sure exactly. But I guess just wanting to know the truth, and I'd like to see. I believe everybody
Yeah.
has stuff inside of them. Stuff isn't the right word, but you get what I'm saying. Like treasures inside of them that are
Mm.
hidden there that everybody sees things differently as a God-given gift to perceive things a different way,
Yeah.
and it's just so many things I'm blind to that I can't even make sense of, or I'll just miss
Mm.
completely. And so
Mm.
just yeah, uh, I don't think it's like a weird sort of Gnosticism where I just want to know. I mean, there is maybe a little bit of that there where it's just I'm just curious to hear different things, I guess, and
Yeah.
know different ideas. But there's definitely more, I think, of a higher aim for that of discovering kind of, I guess, what's true, what's good, and
Yeah.
what's the there is a desire of what is the where I say the highest good or what is the ultimate aim sort of thing.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, but I mean I love all this stuff too. I just like hearing stories. I like getting in these conversations with people and just
Yeah. Cool.
talking, digging down to see what's meaningful too. That's why I like asking, what's yeah, what might have been on your heart and mind lately. What's really driving you lately? What's standing out to you as
Mm.
important in your own life and stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, it's. I mean, it's
It's
100% the Dark Man. That's
it's a very
exactly
yeah,
that's what it is. It's
that's
it's
cool.
yeah, and that is when I talk about kind of the driving creative force. My own, Jung talked about being in the grip of the daemon. To
Mhm.
driving him to do
Yeah.
his work, and I'm very much in that space, and a lot of my friends who are in kind of similar spaces are the same. We're
Okay.
being driven to create our respective works to fulfill our respective dharmas.
Yeah.
Um, and that's my core goal at the moment is to complete.
To do the work.
Yeah, do the
Yeah.
work. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
that's a
complete.
good, yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at too. It's just
Mm.
I have this I've said this to people before where I feel like it's just this weird seasonal depression or something. But it seems like every year comes around, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die at the end of the year. And I feel like I need to get stuff done. I'm like, "Ah, I gotta get my work done." So yeah,
It's a useful reflection.
it is. Yeah.
It is a useful reflection. You know, we again, it's part of the illusion is the suspicion that you're here for a very long time, and we're really not. That
Mhm.
can be snuffed out at any time,
Yeah.
and everything that is given can be taken away. You know, which is why I'm, you know, I guess my personal philosophy is to try and live in joy as much as I can. You know, and that's not always easy. You
No.
know, I get
Yeah.
pissed off all the time, but I try and live in joy, and I try to be positive.
Yeah.
And try and do my best. You know, and be a decent, kind person.
Yeah.
And with dignity and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
because you never know which way things are going to go. We have fate. We have certain fates that are going to take us in a certain direction. Um, and I believe again with that idea of doing one's role's sole purpose is that you will get pulled off that soul's purpose as much as possible,
Hmm.
by opposing forces.
Yeah.
Part of what I believe is that through our creativity, we can be pulled back into that if we listen and if we pay attention. But also, getting back to our soul's purpose will usually involve some kind of trial or some kind of challenge. That's something that is going to be difficult. You
Yeah.
know, to fulfill that, we generally have to go through some kind of fire of some degree. It might not tie in with what your dreams are. That's a challenge. That's a trial.
Oh yeah.
You know, so these are all the kind of elements that we're kind of, we're dancing like puppets on a string in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
I don't really believe in the concept of free will.
Oh really? Okay.
I think we've got elements of that. We've got free will to do a decision, but if we think about it in terms of like, do you have complete tabula rasa? Do you have complete blank slate from which you can make a decision? Absolutely
Oh
not.
no. Yeah. Yeah. I
You know,
mean,
we're
we
all
live in a world that can't just fly off and stuff. You are
exactly,
constrained
yeah.
to. They have lots of constraints. Yeah.
But there
Yeah.
are invisible influences
Oh yeah.
like our daemons all the time. And you look at the creative process. I don't know if you have a creative expression with this is one, but like, and I asked you about kind of what's your curiosity? Why are you here? Why are you doing this? And for me, you doing this is probably, I mean, it certainly is for me. I shouldn't project, but like for me, when I do my podcast, why am I driven to make these inquiries? Why am I? I'm curious, but why? Where does it come from? Where does the need to know come from? You know, what's driving me? What drives me to create a podcast? What drove me to create all my photography? What's driving me to write this manuscript? What's driving me to create any of the things that I've created? And you probably know, for whatever creative expression you have, that there are days when you can, boom, you got it flying out of you. You just on. You got it. Then you go back the next day and you got nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Why does that happen?
Yeah.
And for me, the,
Oh
the,
yeah.
the idea of the
Yeah.
daemon is one that seems articulate for that scenario, seems apt,
Hmm.
and it's a very, very old idea.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would completely agree with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess to get even, I was thinking about that too. I mean, I probably answered wrong, but I think maybe some of the, if I keep digging down, maybe the reason for the curiosity is something like redemption. Like I just want, even if I create something, I'd like to see it bring life and hope,
That's wonderful.
some sort of change. At least hope, you know, at least hope. Um, so yeah, I think, and I don't know how I don't know that I necessarily had. There definitely were like I guess life changing moments and shifts, especially like I said in the past 5 years. I did used to have nerve damage in my face. That was kind of a big thing that caused me to not just do things for myself. Like I started looking, at least looking in the direction of God in a selfish way.
Yeah.
And then started coming back to that sort of thing. But I
Mhm.
mean, I kind of grew up very charismatic Pentecostal. So there was kind of it was very black and white angels, demons, but there was always
Yeah.
like miracles, spiritual stuff and things like
Yeah.
that. So uh, I've kind of had experiences my whole life sort of that were
Right.
here and there, some bigger than others. But um, yeah, I haven't had anything super crazy with seeing a guy in a white hat. That sounds a little intense, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it scared the shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, like it was. That was a white knuckle ride.
yeah.
Um.
I
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's for. For me, it comes down. I think on a conscious level to be service to others. If you can make a choice
yeah,
to, and again, not being attached to the outcome, to the fruit of it. If you just try and do decent stuff, good stuff, I think
yeah,
that's a good purpose. And then on a different level, on that kind of external level, being able to listen to that that diamonic communication
yeah. That's really
for your
really
purpose.
good. hmm The
Mm.
fact that what you've said, not being attached to the fruit of it, you've said that a few times, and I think that's really really good and some deep wisdom. You shared a
Mm.
lot of good wisdom on here so far. So, but I
Awesome.
mean, I can let you go. It's been over an hour, I know, so I don't want to keep you too long.
Cool.
But I did, could I ask you, maybe I had here, this was from India where the kids helped me write up some questions. They were actually for the kids. Could I just rattle off a few and see what your
Yeah,
answers are?
yeah.
All right, okay,
Go
okay.
for it.
There's actually 15 of them. I don't know if you want to do all of them though, but they're kind of simple questions, but they might be difficult if you haven't thought of them before. But first one is, what is your favorite color?
Green.
Green. Okay. I just feel like these kind of actually tell a lot about people after the kids come up with these. I was like, these are actually really good. What is your favorite fruit?
Jeepers.
Yeah, some of them might change later. That's what I did. I was like,
What is my favorite fruit? I don't really know.
yeah.
I
They're
don't think I really have one. I like apple trees, but I
yeah,
don't, a nice apple I think is a wonderful thing.
like the tree, but not the fruit.
Well, they can be a mixed bag. You get the sharp ones and a good crunchy sweet apple is a good thing.
That's good.
Like
All
that,
right,
yeah, yeah.
that's good. What is your favorite number?
I don't think I have one.
Okay. What is your favorite meat? I thought this was an interesting one they asked me. Get
Beef.
in beef. Okay. All right.
Yeah, fillet steak, beef.
Okay. I'll probably skip over some of these. What do you like to do for fun? That's kind of a hard one, I guess.
Um, Gardening,
Gardening. Okay.
reading, and then probably gaming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then complaining about things that annoy me in the mundane life. I'm a grumpy old man. I'm grumpy like that.
Okay. Do you have a favorite place that you've been? Like this could be anything like some of the kids put like mountain or something,
Yeah.
river, things like that.
Well, I'm kind of at most content in like forests, mountainy forests.
Cool.
You know, in terms of my favorite place, um, I mean, it might be. I've ended up in Jodhpur quite a lot. Rajasthan. It is a beautiful place.
Okay.
Um, but I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite quote unquote place.
Yeah.
Probably
Okay.
home. Home with my
Oh
family.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So what is your favorite animal?
Crow.
Crow. Okay,
Mm.
nice. Yeah, that gets two. They had bird in there too, so that gets another one. Let's see. There was two more I was gonna ask you. What's your favorite flower? Do you have one?
Um, I don't know if I have a favorite one. I'm kind of grateful for them all. You know,
Yeah,
they're all such wonderful things.
yeah.
Like people really don't appreciate flowers enough. They're remarkable things.
What an answer. Just pick all of them. My
Yeah,
goodness.
the whole lot.
All right, the last question I'll ask you. Do you have like a favorite story or book or anything that you would recommend? Or it
Um,
could be a movie too, I guess, just story in general that you think is.
I mean, I love mythology. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely adore mythology. So
Wow.
that broadly smells an entire
Just pick
genre.
all of them again.
Yeah. But I think probably something that I come back to again and again would be the Mahabharata.
Okay.
You know, I come back to that an awful
Yeah,
lot.
I got that pulled up. That looks like it's 5.5 hours long. So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
start digging into
Fanatic.
that one. Yeah.
Slow weekend. You know, you
Yeah,
can
there we
work
go.
with
All right. All right.
it.
So okay. Well, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was great talking to you. So
Yeah, my
if you
pleasure.
ever,
My pleasure.
yeah, you have a good day.
You too. All right. Take care. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Oh, okay. Bye.